HighBridge, a division of Recorded Books, presents The Plant-Based Solution, America's Healthy Heart Doc's Plan to Power Your Health, by Joel K. Kahn, M.D. Foreword by John Mackey. Read by Tristan Morris. No disease that can be treated by diet should be treated by any other means. Maimonides, 1135 to 1204. Foreword by John Mackey, CEO, Whole Foods Market. Dr. Joel Kahn is a man with a mission and a message. His mission, like any good doctor's, is to save lives. His message? Eat plants, and lots of them. The Plant-Based Solution is a call by an esteemed cardiologist to wake up to the best science and research about health, disease, and longevity. On page after page of this highly accessible and authoritative book, Dr. Kahn presents the overwhelming evidence that a whole foods, plant-based diet is unmatched in its capacity to prevent and reverse disease, revitalize our bodies, and extend our lives. As co-founder and CEO of Whole Foods Market, I have watched from a unique vantage point as the movement toward healthy and organic eating has gathered steam. I have been tremendously encouraged by the millions of people who are taking back their health through the remarkable power of diet. I have seen lives transformed, families saved, and communities re-energized through the power of food-based medicine. Yet America's healthy eating movement, while growing fast, is still relatively small. We are still losing the larger battle for our nation's health. We are a population beset with chronic disease, most of which is a direct result of what we put on our plates. More than 100 million people in this country are diabetic or pre-diabetic. Heart disease is our #1 killer. Obesity affects 36% of adults and 17% of children, and brings with it a host of ills. These chronic conditions claim millions of lives and cost all of us billions in out-of-control healthcare costs. As Dr. Kahn declares in the following pages, much of this human toll is painfully unnecessary. We already know the solution. The word is out, he writes. Plants heal. Plants save lives. Plants reduce medical costs. Plants prevent disease. Each much-feared chronic disease like dementia, Alzheimer's, MS, and Parkinson's, he explains, are deeply connected to what we eat. This is actually good news. It means that our long-term health is not merely dependent on our genetics. We have the opportunity to transform our health outcomes simply by changing what's on our plates. We need not wait for dramatic medical breakthroughs, new pharmaceuticals, or even better procedures. The power is in our hands. But to use that power, we have to educate ourselves. Those of us who live in the developed world have an unprecedented opportunity and responsibility. We don't have to worry if we are going to be able to eat. Getting enough calories is no longer our primary problem. Indeed, for the first time in history, it is estimated that more people will suffer disability because of too many calories than not enough calories. Never before have we had access to the sheer variety of whole and healthy foods that are available in any grocery store. And yet, never has it been so easy to cheaply consume an endless supply of highly processed, unhealthy, food-like substances, as food writer Michael Pollan calls them, that will break down our bodies and shorten our lives. In this era of endless options, we must make conscious choices to eat well. That starts with education. I've met Dr. Kahn, heard him speak to attentive audiences about nutrition and health, read his thoughtful writings on nutrition and heart disease, and had the pleasure of dining at his wonderful Green Space Cafe in Ferndale, Michigan, where he is a gracious host. He is an example of a new kind of physician, part medical doctor, part educator, and part health advocate. He has traversed the conventional medical world and understands that surgery and pharmaceuticals only go so far. What matters far more, especially when it comes to chronic conditions, are the simple choices we make every day of our lives, what we eat and what we don't. Unfortunately, the question, "What shall I eat?" often seems to be a subject of great confusion today. That's not accidental. Significant players in the food industry have a vested interest in keeping the general public in the dark about the best nutritional advice, and keeping butter, meat, eggs, sugar, and oil at the center of our diets. It's to their advantage to make it seem like nutritional science is contradictory and confusing. That is why we must rely on trusted authorities like Dr. Kahn, who have done the research and carefully sorted through the best science. He can save you from the misleading voices that tell you it's all too complex, or it's all a matter of individual genetics, or that bacon is good for you, or whatever the latest fad diet might claim. He can help save you from the illusion of confusion that has descended over our food culture in recent years. The truth about diet and health is actually quite clear. You just need to know whom to listen to. The food industry is powerful, but it does change, and the engines of that change are shifting cultural preferences and consumer demand. Whole Foods Market is an example of this. 40 years ago, there wasn't much of a market for organic foods. Today, organic food is a growing, thriving, multi-billion-dollar market because more and more people have voted with their hard-earned dollars to make it that way. Hopefully, in 40 years, we will be able to say the same thing about a dramatic shift to whole food, plant-based eating. And by reading this book and following its advice, you can be a pioneer of that shift today. This change in diet will impact much more than individual health. It will also transform our society in numerous ways, as Dr. Kahn lays out. Whole food, plant-based eating is transformative to a healthcare system that is ever more burdened by the cost of chronic disease. It's incredibly beneficial to an environment that is being damaged by the heavy footprint of animal agriculture. And eating a plant-based diet, as a recent New York Times article pointed out, may be the number one thing that any single person can do to ameliorate the issue of climate change. Finally, it's a compassionate choice. I have spent many years working on the ethics of eating animals, and trust me when I tell you that the killing fields of our factory farms are something future generations will look back on with disbelief. I'm a businessman, and there's nothing I like more than a deal in which everyone wins. Whole food, plant-based eating is truly win-win-win-win. Rarely does one simple choice have such a far-reaching impact on our own lives, the well-being of our communities, the suffering of our fellow creatures, and the health of our planet. The plant-based solution is that important. I recommend you read it closely and put it into practice carefully and enjoy the benefits for a very long lifetime. Preface. Let me tell you a bit about my upbringing and an important day in my life. I was raised in a home that observed kosher dietary laws of the Jewish faith. The meat we purchased, and yes, there was meat, was bought at a special kosher butcher shop. We never combined milk and meat at meals, and there were some foods, like pork and shellfish, that were never in the house, as they are always prohibited. This experience was a blessing in many respects, because it elevated food to something that required mindfulness. I learned to pause before eating to consider if the content of my plate was acceptable to my tradition. Food mindfulness is a key to appreciating the miracle of health, the power we hold to choose wisely or poorly, and in staying the course on a dietary program that is different from the norm. If you have no food rules and can eat anything made anywhere, there are literally tens of thousands of choices to consider, and it can tire you out. By some estimates, there may be over 200 decisions daily on food choices, and it can be a strain. If you grew up eating kosher, as I did, or eating only vegetables, fruits, legumes, nuts, and seeds, as I do now, the decision fatigue decreases enormously, for eggs, meat, hamburgers, dairy ice cream, and BLTs are never a consideration. It is actually easier to choose from a shorter list. Think of a list with 5 great wines versus 500 choices. Which is easier to utilize on a daily basis when you are rushed and managing your busy life? At age 18, I was accepted into a combined pre-medical/medical program and entered the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor with my longtime girlfriend, Karen, who was accepted into the nursing school at the same university. On the first day of classes, I walked into the dormitory cafeteria with Karen, and we looked around. Only the salad bar looked appealing, and it also met the kosher rules we wanted to honor. so we became vegetarians. That decision has remained in place for 40 years, as well as the decision to stay together. We have been married now for over 36 years. The transition from college vegetarian to vegan happened after we both read the book Diet for a New America, which laid out the reasons a plant-based diet was ideal for health, kindness, and the planet. Around that time, my parents began visiting the Pritikin Longevity Center in Miami, where my mother, quite an accomplished cook, learned the nuances of plant-based cooking that was also very low in salt. My plant-based commitment was sealed when I began my medical practice in Ann Arbor as a staff cardiologist and catheterization laboratory attending physician. I had gained advanced skills during my cardiology training in balloon angioplasty, and so was off and running on July 1st, 1990, my first day at a busy practice. Plants powered me. All of that lasted only 3 weeks because my life changed on July 21st, 1990. I was going through my mail late at night and reading the medical journals that had arrived. This was before digital editions. In a prestigious British journal called The Lancet was a report on patients with advanced heart disease treated with either standard therapy or a program emphasizing a plant-based diet, low in fat, along with walking, social support, and stress management. You will read more about this study, called the Lifestyle Heart Trial, later. I did not know of the lead author, Dean Ornish, MD, but I recognized many of the other authors as leading academic physicians admired worldwide. The report, which looked at baseline and follow-up cardiac catheterization, my specialty, claimed that blocked heart arteries became better or reversed in severity during a plant-based diet and lifestyle program. This had never been reported before, and I was dumbfounded but excited. I read the report over and over and was impressed by its important and potential impact in my practice. While I did not stop performing advanced catheterization procedures that day, I did start teaching my patients that the lessons from the Lifestyle Heart Trial should be adopted in their own lives to prevent further blockages and procedures. Today, over 25 years later, that is my only focus, teaching the early detection, prevention, and reversal of the #1 killer of men and women in the world, heart disease, along with other serious medical challenges like adult diabetes, obesity, hypertension, autoimmune disorders, and even some cancers. I have benefited by that early introduction to plant-based eating and have acquired a deep appreciation for the impact it has had on my relationship with planet Earth and its animal population in terms of fostering a kind and caring attitude. I have been able to maintain a stable weight, a freedom from prescription medications, legendary energy, and a passion for continued learning and teaching. But enough about me. Let's get on with the plant-based solution for you and your loved ones. Introduction. I want to say it early, and I will repeat it often. There is no decision you can make that is as powerful for your health and as supported by medical research as giving up all animal foods and learning to replace them with enjoyable and healthy plant-based substitutes. That is what I want to convince you of, by taking you through body system by body system and explaining the overwhelming medical data that exists for plant-based nutrition. A plant-based diet, one that is nearly or completely free of all meats, eggs, and dairy, is the answer to preserving or regaining your optimal health. When I use the term plant-based diet, I am referring to a vegan diet, which is based entirely on plant foods without any dairy, eggs, or meats. My strength is my knowledge of the medical science, and admittedly, I am not a chef, nor do I even run the kitchen at my home or my restaurant, Green Space Cafe in Ferndale, Michigan. After over 30 years as a physician, 40 years as a vegan, and serving tens of thousands of meals to the public, I am only writing to help you from my place of authority and experience. My oath to not harm that I took as a medical doctor is the principle you can trust as you read this book. It can be a tough world out there if we are searching for health messages to trust and follow. Most of us are looking for something to enhance our lives, boost our energy, trim our bodies, make our skin glow, or provide a sense of purpose in a world that can be confusing and occasionally scary. While we may chase the latest fad, whether it is a new skin treatment, a style of exercise, a novel nutritional supplement, or the teachings of a charismatic speaker, we often overlook one of the most profound practices literally at our fingertips to raise our health, our purpose, and our connection to others and the fragile planet on which we live with billions of living creatures. In over 3 decades practicing medicine in some of the greatest medical centers anywhere, I have been struck by the immense power we have in choosing to make the 65,000 or so meals we decide upon into moments of health and purpose. The most powerful choice you can make. Food is powerful information for our bodies, and when combined with yoga, exercise, sound sleep, stress management, and hydration, it can reverse almost any health problem. At least 3 times a day, we hold the power of choosing foods to honor our miraculous bodies, to promote our inner and outer health, to honor planet Earth, which is being increasingly impacted by a fast-growing population that will reach 10 billion people within our lifetime, and to honor and respect animals with a kind heart and soul, rather than with a cruel and insensitive attitude. Every day can be one focused on health practices for ourselves and our loved ones. Every day we can make conscious decisions to respect the environment and make small but important steps to reduce our damage to the planet. Every meal can be viewed as an act of ahimsa, the Sanskrit term for non-harmfulness and compassion to ourselves and other creatures. This is the very meaning we are often searching for. Although many different patterns of eating have sustained humans over preceding centuries, we do not live in the era of cavemen, agricultural farming societies, and private farms, or lush tropical gardens. Most of us have outsourced our nutrition to big farming enterprises, concentrated in the hands of a few megacorporations reporting to shareholders, to giant food manufacturers, looking for shelf life and sales far beyond our biochemistry needs and planetary well-being, and to restaurants and food vendors providing us with roughly half of the meals we eat each week. Do you know how much salt, genetically modified oils, antibiotics, hormones, and toxins might be in a meal you pick up on your way home from work? Probably not. As a restaurant owner dedicated to very high standards, I can pretty much assure you that the answer might shock you and shock your health simultaneously. But the good news is, you can control the quality and content of the fuel to power your body to health or harm. Increase your lifespan and health span. The fact that our health is suffering physically and spiritually is without doubt. Obesity has exploded since 1985, when the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention in Atlanta began tracking and reporting an annual map of the rates of obesity in each state in the United States. Every state has seen a dramatic rise in obesity. Along with obesity follows adult diabetes, cardiovascular disease, hypertension, stroke, and heart disease, dementia, and orthopedic and joint destruction. For the first time, the fear that our lifespan may be suffering from the pressure on our health, which centers around our food chain, has been realized by a documented decrease in the average lifespan of Americans. And what about the term health span? The last 10 to 20 years of a person's life is often one of progressive decline, entailing the needs for medications, medical procedures, and possibly facilities to provide services that can no longer be performed independently. The goal to increase lifespan and health span is being threatened, and we may be losing the battle. So, what can be done by every individual in the United States and in other countries? What decision can be made starting today, whether it be a sprint into making life more meaningful and healthful, or a slower inch-by-inch approach toward the same goals? The solution is to raise a plant-based lifestyle to the center of both consciousness and dietary choices as a daily, meaningful decision to say yes to health, yes to supporting the health of our planet, and yes to kindness over the torture that characterizes the vast majority of animal-based food products consumed daily. It is an established medical fact, one not clearly agreed upon until the last decade, that from cradle to grave, eating only plant-based foods, free of all animal products, eggs, meat, dairy, can sustain and promote health at all ages. It may be necessary to take a small amount of vitamins like B12 and D to ensure proper health and growth, but a trip to a farmer's market, garden, or produce department can without question result in healthy babies, healthy children and teens, and healthy adults of all ages. There is no known medical reason why everyone could not thrive on a well-balanced and well-planned plant-based diet. Furthermore, as you will see, not only is it now agreed upon that all can thrive on whole food plant-based WFPB diets alone, vegetables, fruits, legumes, nuts, and seeds only, the plant-based solution, but the medical database overwhelmingly agrees that we can prevent the chronic diseases that can shorten both our lifespan and health span when we choose a plant-based solution daily. Even more startling is that medical conditions present for decades, such as blocked arteries, adult diabetes, obesity, hypertension, and cholesterol elevations, can respond in weeks to months when animal-based diets are eliminated and plant-based diets are chosen. This is nothing short of a plant-based miracle. You may want to take part in this miracle in your own life, whether you do it privately, share it with your family, or turn it into the central defining piece for your life's purpose, as many of my friends and I have done. I will present to you, in as simple a manner as possible, the reasons why the biggest health challenges we face can be lessened, avoided, or reversed by eating only plant foods. This book includes the most compelling pieces of medical research to demonstrate the scientific support for the miracle of a plant-based solution. In addition to the science, I will ask hot questions, present case studies, share tips to eat more fruits and vegetables, and go off on rants whenever needed. In the plant-based plan boxes, I also provide suggestions for beginning your plant-based journey. In Chapter 15, I provide the recipes that I love and make to impress you of the simplicity, beauty, and satisfaction you can have eating exclusively from the plant world. You will know what you need to have in your kitchen, what to buy at the store, and how to assemble enough meals to enjoy a change of palate, along with the pleasure that fruits, vegetables, legumes, whole grains, nuts, seeds, and spices can provide. There are numerous online resources to help you keep learning and experimenting after you finish this book, and I list many of those in the resources section. So hold on, stay with me to the end, and I hope you will be convinced and excited to begin the plant-based solution for yourself and your family. Plant Rant. Although I have used the word kindness several times in the introduction, the gloves will come off at times in this book. The case for plant-based diets is so strong that the world should have reacted to Dr. Dean Ornish's research in 1990 and other groundbreaking pieces of research in a manner as strongly as I reacted. The recognition of the healing ability of plants should be the norm in the medical world and the world of authors and experts. Alas, there are very vocal critics and opponents who ridicule the research of Dr. Ornish and other scientists in such a loud manner that it leads to widespread confusion. Is added oil good or bad? Is butter good or bad? It can be an ugly war of sorts, often played out in social media, newspaper interviews, and TV appearances. You can turn on public TV one night and view my special praising a plant-based, no-added-oil diet for advanced heart disease and adult diabetes, and the next night hear the opposite message, praising high levels of added fats. Confusion was a strategy of the tobacco industry, and there is reason to believe that the egg, dairy, and meat lobbies are not far behind. This book is geared for you, not necessarily the university classrooms in which I teach. I have embraced the role of the pugilist, punching back with powerful data and case studies, and I am game for a debate when called for. Sadly, food wars and the multi-billion-dollar food industry play hardball. Do not be confused. I do not accept monies from the artichoke, apple, or spinach producers. This book is the product of decades of clinical experience and medical practice. Let the plant rant begin. The Plant-Based Plan. Get inspired. While what you eat is something you actually can control, changing your diet is difficult. Set yourself up for success. These are the first things I ask my patients who are beginning a plant-based diet to do. 1. Watch the documentary Forks Over Knives. This 90-minute film on the relationship between diet and health profiles doctors and patients and has changed thousands, if not millions, of lives. 2. Register for the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine's 21-day Vegan Kickstart free online program. You will get a 21-day meal plan, nutrition advice, and diet and lifestyle tips. pcrm.org/kickstart-home. 3. Download and read Mercy for Animals' free The Vegetarian Starter Guide, which has pointers on getting started in the kitchen and will help you appreciate the positive impact your kind, plant-based diet has on animal suffering. mercyforanimals.org/files/vsg.pdf. 1. The 6 Pillars of Support for the Plant-Based Solution. The support for plant-based health is overwhelming, fantastic, amazing, fascinating, and convincing. In this chapter, I summarize the most credible scientific information that backs the health claims of the plant-based solution. If you do not have the why for making changes to upgrade your health and that of the planet, you will never get to the how. So the science, even when presented in a simple way, is the foundation of choosing a plant-based diet for your health over all the other options on magazine stands, bookstores, TV shows, and social media outlets. Science can be cool and interesting, and is the basis for understanding how we are alive and healthy. Admittedly, you can adopt a plant-based diet solely from either the ethical standpoint of not harming animals or the environmental view of preserving the planet. Do it. But most of you are probably reading this book because you want to feel better, regain health, reduce medications, and avoid illness. The science is necessary to show you that this is the path you need to start and follow for as long as I have. Over the past few decades, many people have successfully elected to eat exclusively a plant-based diet, and a large body of scientific data proves its health benefits and safety. Nonetheless, there are always naysayers and skeptics who may present opinions or experiences to the contrary. My brother-in-law's friend's sister's boss tried to eat a vegan diet and her cholesterol levels went over 1,000. Or, I ate plant-based for a few months and gained 45 pounds while developing acne and gas. Or so many other similar versions that can be found on the internet. What were these people eating? Not sweet potatoes, broccoli, bean stews, and tempeh burgers, or the thousands of other delicious and nutritious options available in the WFPB whole food plant-based world. In case you run into one of these postings, podcasts, or videos that express the dangers of a WFPB diet, it will be important to remember the powerful but simple factors that confirm the safety and acceptability of the plant-based solution for you and your family. In this chapter, I will explain these 6 key pillars of information that support the power of a WFPB diet. These are all wow moments for sure. They are strong statements for why you should begin or continue your WFPB diet starting today. 1. The 2015 to 2020 Dietary Guidelines. Politics, money, power, influence. These issues come into play every 5 years when the U.S. Department of Agriculture, USDA, re-examines policy statements aiming to translate the latest science to help the public choose foods for a healthy and enjoyable diet. The stated goal of the dietary guidelines is to improve health and reduce chronic disease, with the main focus on preventing diseases, like adult diabetes. The dietary guidelines are often used or adopted by medical and nutritional professionals. They are also used to develop policy that impacts the USDA's National School Lunch Program and School Breakfast Program, which feed more than 30 million children each school day. The guidelines also impact the Special Supplemental Nutrition Program for Women, Infants, and Children, WIC, and the Older Americans Act, totaling millions more meals daily in the United States. Finally, the Department of Veterans Affairs and the Department of Defense rely in part on the guidelines to develop food programs for the armed services and veterans. Therefore, each edition of the guidelines is a very important document developed by a panel of experts and lobbyists, and then finalized and published. For its latest dietary guidelines, the federal government, after many hours of meetings, presentations, and debate, chose only 3 patterns of eating to endorse. One pattern is the Mediterranean MED diet, featuring large amounts of
Sample complete. Ready to continue?